Greetings travelers of the web. Hello and welcome back to my channel and my videos. There has been a big gap between my last upload and now. A lot of things have changed. I'm in a new apartment now and the whole summer was quite interesting. I'll post an updated video about this. So today I want to make a larger and kind of a special video. If you haven't explored yet what Microsoft Office 365 is, and how the knowledge of this product and this system and platform is useful. Today, my goal will be to demonstrate how it works, what's actually different and why is it so much different than just basic Office, what kind of technologies are behind that, and what can you learn to actually make a living, hopefully, or at least find an interesting job in this field. There's a lot behind of it. Azure Active Directory, different resource forests, implementation with cloud storage, and different other platforms that provide cloud and web identity. But today I'm going to try to paint the big picture, explain it, and show something using my test tenant that I have deployed inside of Office 365. In addition to that, I'm going also to show you how to get at least 2 months of free usage, which will be more than enough to understand if it's something that you want to learn, something that you want to try. And obviously, in any case, it's going to be useful for your whole understanding of the current Office IT infrastructure, because most of the companies have moved into the usage of Google Cloud Services, Amazon virtual machines, Azure virtual machines from Microsoft, and also Office 365. There is a very good chance that if you use Office at work, it's deployed using this platform. I'm going to make it a step-by-step video, and I'll make a timeline notes for actual YouTube video, so you could switch back and forth. I'll start with very basics, imagining that you only know what Office is, and then I'll try to build it up to the point where the video is still useful to those who know what is Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, identity providers, cloud storage, and other similar fields. Let's get on with it. If you watched previous videos, you know that I really like to start with concepts. So let's quickly take a look at what Office is, right? So technically, initially it's a set of tools and applications designed to support, well, Office, right? So even our parents probably know that there is Microsoft Word, Excel, which is an amazing application, PowerPoint. If you use email, you'll use Outlook client. And there are a bunch of other tools which are maybe a bit less known, but still are part of the typical Office package. So normally when you say Microsoft Office, you mean something like Office 2019 or some specific year-based product. We had 2013, 2007. Typically, if every few years, like Windows, Microsoft would release a new set of tools that you can buy. The purchase is done using perpetual model. It means that you pay something upfront, and then if you want, you can pay for support extra to continue maintaining the product. But when the new version comes out, you have to buy either at a cheaper price or at the same price as everybody else, a new product package. The biggest difference with Office 365 in this regard would be that it has the same tools. So you'll have also Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but you would also have web-based components. So you would have similar applications in the cloud. You could run them from the browser. In addition to that, one of the, let's say, impossible to detach from the understanding of Office tool is OneDrive, so your cloud storage. Also, of course, you have Outlook, and you purchase as well Outlook on the web, OWA, something that existed before as a service that you could connect to on mail servers. Besides all of this, there are a lot of other tools which were not previously available, and some of the tools remain local only. The difference between these two in terms of how you purchase it is that here you would have one upfront payment, and here you usually provide subscription-based payments. And it means that even if the software keeps updating, changing, new tools appear, as long as you pay for your type of subscription, you have it all included. The benefit of upfront payment is obviously that you have it and you own it. But subscription is something that's flexible. So you can, let's say, buy it for January, then for February, then for June, and maybe at some point you buy it for December. And if you are a company manager responsible for spending, you can also decide how many licenses you want. So you can buy, let's say, for 25 users. And the difference is that because you are no longer maintaining a key per user, by key I mean product key, you can give and remove licenses to any users in your organization. So if your company has 50 users, you can keep paying. Then if you have a period when people go on vacation, you cancel some of the licenses, you pay less. When you hire somebody, you buy more licenses. As a result, you have a full flexibility over what you pay. So in addition to that, because the service keeps updating and the support is included, generally, I think in major scale, I didn't really measure it thoroughly, but I'm pretty sure this model is cheaper. In addition to that, if you need to have a storage, which is now replaced by OneDrive, and before you had to have mail servers, but the Office 365 now includes Exchange Online plan. So we have Exchange Online, SharePoint, etc. Right? In this case, you don't have to maintain the actual servers running the software because they're all in the cloud. So if you don't know what Exchange is, I'll quickly explain. It's basically a server application which stores and provides access to emails. So Outlook is a client application you run on the computer, and Exchange is the computer where you connect to in order to see, download, and send the emails. Typically, it uses SMTP protocol or IMAP protocol. These are mail protocols to send and receive emails. Okay, so in case of Office, Microsoft takes care of maintaining that software. In addition to that, there is a lot of configuration in terms of security. So you get access to security and compliance. There is a difference, and I'm going to explain what it is. So security is your standard Exchange Online protection, basically anti-spam, anti-phishing, antivirus software included in the mail service. You also get configuration regarding allowed types of contents of the emails. By that I mean file types. You get configuration which networks can and cannot send emails. You can make specific mailbox which is only accessible by a few individuals, or you can block some individuals from sending. So there's a lot of configuration options in terms of your permissions and security. So when you're talking about security, I'm talking about mostly antivirus, anti-spam, and permissions. Compliance is kind of a new concept which is being rapidly developed recently in many organizations. It allows you to set up alerts and rules when something looks out of place. For example, when you see that your boss sends emails from Maldives or from Ukraine or Russia, when you know that he is next to you in Ukraine, not Ukraine, in UK office in London, or when you start receiving emails from the same partner from different parts of the world. So there are location-based services which show you who is where and when. And you can not only set up alerts, you can also create conditional access. So you can say, let's say, only logged in from Germany, you can send emails, right? send aloud, for example, and the world can receive only if we're talking about emails. You can even block logins from other regions. It also ties into the software called Intune, which is a Microsoft platform where you enroll and remove devices which are allowed. For example, if you want the users to be able to work from company laptops only, you can set up such rule, and then you will enroll these laptops into an Intune system. And then if they try to connect to your network from a different computer, they would get an error. Besides Intune, there is also an integration with MFA. MFA is multi-factor authentication. You probably know it from many areas when you try to type in your username and password, and you're asked to approve something on the phone or to provide a code from SMS. So all of these functions now are built on top of Office. So for example, if you want, you can set up your accountants to be able to log in only from a specific country, from a specific computer, and only after they provide a code from the phone. This way, it's much harder to steal the company information. As you can see, all of this is ironed out and built for big or small corporations and companies to easier maintain the user base and documents. It also ties into different regulations such as GDPR or maybe local company security policies. So you can already imagine that even on the surface, the Office is so much more. You have a lot more settings, a lot more applications, a lot more types of services, because it's no longer a document prompt or table filler software. You have cloud storage, you have security, you have compliance, you have mail servers, etc. So I would say in the past, if I would be interviewing somebody and they would tell me my experience is with Office, I would just disregard it and start asking about the knowledge of networking, hardware, Windows operating system, etc. Nowadays, if somebody tells you, I know Office, I immediately follow up, hey, which Office? 365, tell me what you know, because there is a lot of technologies and knowledge behind that. You can actually become a fully professional IT administrator knowing Office 365 only. It's a huge field which now requires a lot of management. Unfortunately, some companies do not treat this product as such. And let's say they put, I don't know, a chemistry teacher in charge of that project, or the class teacher. Unfortunately, that makes it very hard for that person because they haven't been trained, they're just given some videos. And I actually saw that happen. Basically, schools force teachers to become network and system administrators for free. Hopefully, some of them do pay for that. But anyway, this is what we observe now. But more and more companies realize that it's very important to have an administrator for this field. Since we're talking about concepts, I have to tell you more about the bigger picture now. Because if we're talking about, so we forgot about Office 2019. It still exists, you can still buy it. But today's video is about 365. So I said that you can buy the license for 25 users. What users, right? You need to have some kind of users. User 1, user 2, user 3. How are they managed? Well, obviously, there is some kind of database on the side of Microsoft Cloud. So there is a database with the users. And there should be identity provider. Identity provider is a service which will check your username, password, multi-factor settings. So all of this comes in place. MFA, Intune, compliance. And whenever you try to connect with the user, this service is supposed to tell you you are okay or you are not. Now, all of this is already solved by a specific Microsoft product called Active Directory. And now I'm going to very quickly explain what Active Directory is. If you already know, sorry, it will not take much time. So there is a specific computer called domain controller, which will host the information about all the users. So when somebody tries to enter username and password, that would be checked against the database and come back saying the password is correct or incorrect. This is the most basic explanation of authentication. And the domain controller is a computer which serves many purposes, including authentication. It also provides you the domain services. You usually deploy such things as DHCP, DNS, and other things there. And as a result, this computer basically serves the center of your organization management. For users administrators, I mean, not for those who actually fix something from Microsoft side, but for those who work with the system, it's done in a pretty simple way. You go to users and computers. It's similar to they view like this in terms of the contents for Windows, but of course it has a lot more settings that you can click on. You can create passwords, you can reset passwords, you can create new users, new computers. Well, this system usually exists on premises. That's a word I'm going to use today a lot. On premises means on site. So the customer organization of Microsoft has purchased this service and runs it on their computer, which makes them create networks, users, etc. Now, because the office is in the cloud, it wouldn't use your local. Well, there is a way to do that, but I'll explain it later. But normally it wouldn't use your local database. There are users in the cloud. And because Microsoft has this secure and very well developed technology, they moved it into a cloud as well. So in this case, it's called Azure Active Directory. It's the Active Directory which runs in the cloud, integrates with many Azure services. If you didn't know, Azure is the name of a packet of different applications from Microsoft. And it has a web-based interface. So not only Office applications have web-based interface, Outlook has web-based interface. Now the Azure Active Directory also is Active Directory, which has web interface. So technically, now administrator can work with everything simply using an Edge or Chrome browser. As you can imagine, at this point, you have to grasp and learn the basics of user management in Active Directory, permission settings. So if you want to be a well-versed and able administrator of Office, you also have to know how to work with Azure Active Directory. In addition to that, there is a lot more complexity when it comes to moving to that kind of control. Because if you're a new organization, you just purchase these services, you can work and deploy everything in the cloud. But imagine if you already have a company for 10 years, or if you don't want to fully put all the security on Microsoft. You would normally have your local antivirus, firewall, Active Directory, Exchange, which means mail, and other servers running already on your site. Then you would have two options. You could discard everything you have and move to the cloud, but then you would have to rebuild everything manually. It would be impossible in most cases. So there should be a procedure of migration. So imagine that you already have Active Directory, I'll name it AD. You have Exchange. You probably have SharePoint. SharePoint is something that not all people know. It's kind of a backend with SQL database to have a company website with projects. So you would make an internal website with news, files, sharing, etc., and people would use it. It's still less used than other tools, I would say, but it's still pretty important. So you already have this, and you have to move Exchange into Exchange Online, Active Directory into Azure Active Directory, SharePoint into SharePoint, etc. Right? So in order to do this migration, you would put all of your services through a specific tool called Azure Active Directory Connect. So AD Connect and knowledge of how to operate it and use it is another domain that you would want to learn in addition to knowing Azure Active Directory and normal Active Directory, because it has a set of configurations and rules which allow you to move the users from local to cloud environment. Now, you may also be not ready to fully move your environment. In that case, this migration is not temporary, it's more or less permanent. So you keep maintaining this Azure AD Connect software on one of your computers, and you keep working with local Active Directory, Exchange, and SharePoint maybe and other things, but you already make use of the cloud services. And if you would create a new user or reset a password or block a user, the AD Connect would pick it up and move it and update the user in the cloud. This way you would have a full control of it in the cloud using local resources. This is called a hybrid deployment. So I mentioned a word before. You would have on-premises, on-prem. Then you would have cloud, which is pure cloud. And in between, there is a hybrid deployment, which is usually the most complicated thing to learn because you have to know the both. So today's video is not going to cover the understanding of every small aspect of this, but at least now I hope you know that these two or three different deployment models exist. You have a better understanding of the picture, and overall you would know better which different technology fields you need to learn in order to become Office administrator. Yeah, and of course I just realized that I wrote the wrong number. It's 365 Office, not 56. And I wanted to mention that there is one more tool, Microsoft Teams, which is a big part of this whole process, this whole concept. There are more tools, but Teams is interesting because previously you would use Skype for Business, S4B. It's a special type of Skype application used for business communication, which allows you to log in with your local users from Active Directory. And now it's being fully replaced by Teams. People are moving from Skype for Business into Teams, and Teams is another communication application which allows you to chat with other people, to create channels, to communicate within the organization and share files, and to also communicate with people from other organizations. It is integrated with Exchange, because in Exchange, in mail server, you would have calendars of people, because if you didn't know, calendars are also types of email messages. I mean, the entries in the calendar. The calendars are tied with Teams scheduling. So whenever you are in Teams or previously Skype for Business, you would make a meeting, it would go into your Exchange calendar. And as you can see, the overall tendency of Office 365 is to interact and interconnect different tools together for a very smooth experience. So now you would work with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other applications, and the files would be stored in a OneDrive. You would be able to send them through Outlook from the cloud storage. So you could be in a different computer in a different country, but you would log in to your account and access your files and your applications. You could also, as an administrator, create a set of rules to forbid doing some actions based on location, specifics of the users, not using MFA, etc. And all of this could be tied with communication experience used in Teams. In order to understand this better, of course, you would want to try it yourself. So the next video is going to focus on showing you how to trial Office for free, so you could test and verify how it works, see different functionality, and use some of the features without paying anything. And I'm going to demonstrate you step-by-step process, including which web pages, which websites, which links are going to be useful to start using this. I'm very glad to be back in the business. Thank you for watching my video if you managed to do it until the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.